So, welcome to my channel where I talk about beauty envy and featurism. If you have a nice face, nice body, or a skin tone that is socially favored by the American standard of beauty, then you have been a targeted individual in America, normally because people who benefit from featurism experience a lot of social hostility. So today I want to talk about what happened to my light-skinned mother. This will be the part 3 of part 1 and part 2 that I've already made. And I've spoken about my mother before, but I never truly explained the depth of what she lived through or how it shaped the way I see the world. In this part of her story, I want to explain more about her experiences, not to blame any group of people, but to show how appearance-based tensions can shape a person's entire life. So, my mother grew up in a middle-class home. She was raised by her mother, who was a nurse. She is also lighter complexion, and she is biracial. So my mom's mom is a biracial woman. She is half white and half black. And she didn't care for my mother's growth. There was a time period where she just didn't want to connect with my mother and didn't care for her growth. So their relationship became complicated, and during the years when my mother needed guidance the most, she often had to navigate the world alone. She was a highly visible girl, my mom. Just beautiful, radiant, soft-spoken, and she was noticeable. So my mom was the type of woman, when she walked into a room, she was very noticeable. And even in her movements, you just were at awe with how she moved and everything. Her features, her hair, and her presence made her stand out in ways she never asked for. And with that visibility, it came with a lot of attention. I'm not going to lie, both of my parents were extremely attractive. I had 2 extremely attractive parents. And they know they're attractive. And the thing about my attractive parents is that they did want an attractive child, which they did create me. Well, because my parents, they focus on looks. My dad believed looks matter. My mom believes looks matter. And I am very thankful. I never want to be ugly. And the only reason why I say this is because even though being good looking is challenging, but it's I'd be pretty before I'd be ugly. From her childhood into her teenage years, she encountered strong hostility from her peers who didn't understand why she drew so much attention. She would tell me stories of being targeted out of nowhere. So she told me about a story her first attack from a jealous person, that she was sitting on a swing and a girl just came up to her and started beating her because she was looking at my mom why do you look like this? And when young people, especially girls, are developing their identity, they recognize looks immediately. So if they see a girl who is very visible or pretty, ultimately they're going to question it if they don't have the same features. And this also happened to me at 7 years old when I seen a white girl on a plane. She had dark, long hair and she had fair skin. And I was 7 years old. I was a dark-skinned girl. I was very dark at 7 years old. So then I began to question, why don't I got that texture hair? And why isn't my skin tone like that? But my light-skinned mother did help me get through that. Get through those moments of me trying to understand my African American identity. When a person stands out in looks and spirit, others immediately project, because they are the most visible. These experiences did leave a mark on her. She needed guidance, especially as she was navigating beauty warfare during her teenage years. And she needed help navigating these social battles that arise when appearance starts to become tense, because appearance normally starts to become tense during your middle school years. It's like when everybody in elementary school, everybody is developing their looks. Some people develop their looks quicker, but it's really in middle school and high school where girls start to look at other girls and they get jealous and they start to identify lookism. And so sadly, without strong support at home, my mother had to figure out how to survive these dynamics on her own. Like I've said before, oftentimes when a light-skinned, attractive woman doesn't have a strong support system, they will get caught up hanging around the wrong type of people. It never fails. This is what I've seen happen with a lot of my light-skinned friends. A lot of times they think because they're favored due to their light skin, they can go in any environment. But while they're also going in different environments, they're also drawing in darkness towards them, because ultimately there's a spiritual warfare going on, and jealousy is one of the battles that is prevalent in society. People do stuff quickly. Stuff goes on in the dark like that, and that person can get away with it. So that's what happened to my mom. She started to go in environments that did not like her, which was the hood. She went into hood environments. And this is where hood dark-skinned girls begin to make her life experience of being a attractive light-skinned woman more conflicting. As you see in the thumbnail image, this is what would happen when she would walk into a hood environment full of dark-skinned women. They gravitated towards her space without permission. And they do that to me too. Along with that, they did not like how she strongly caught the male gaze. So when she would go outside to socialize with them, and my mom will run away from home too. So what started happening was the dark-skinned girls she hung out with would try to change the way she thought, how she talked, how she walked, or they would like her up until she caught too many guys' attention. So that happens too when you're visible. Girls be all want to be your friend. They be all kiki and laughing with you. And then the moment a group of guys come around y'all and they're looking at your friend who is more visible, all of a sudden they get mad, they act distraught, because they never witnessed that, until they're walking around with the baddie. I'm so sorry. I'm not even trying to laugh because it really is sad. And this is why, when I used to be in middle school and see highly visible women having friends with women who are not that cute, and then guys will come up to them and then they look at their highly visible friend like, fuck you, bitch. Like they hate them now. I used to be sitting there knowing the game so well. I used to just be like, it could never be me. And I never been in that situation before, because I used to watch how my mother's friends would give her this just ugly look because they felt like I don't like her because she's too beautiful, right? So they try to shape my mother so strongly. They try to change her, literally, I'm not even lying, literally change her so that she would not catch men attention as much and not make them feel inadequate. So as she grew older, she became spiritually aware and very grounded. And this was because her great-grandmother was a devoted Bible reader. And that influence shaped my mother's values. My mother was a very woke woman ever since she was young. She was just very woke. She wasn't easily swayed by hood nature. My mom was very woke. And so when my mom did go to the side of the hood, it was just very hard for her to be influenced with her pretty privilege, because a lot of times if you are woke about human nature and society, you oftentimes can't get influenced by dark things. And it's very hard for a visually advantaged person to be influenced by the ghetto. That's why sometimes attractive people will be raised in the hood or be in the ghetto, and as they start to get older and get more notice, are more favored by the opposite sex, it is very hard for them to stay connected with people in the hood, family and friends, because they are like the chosen ones. And oftentimes when they change their life totally, their friends want to say, oh, you think you better than everybody, or their friends will outright allow the jealousy that they've been holding on to possess them, because majority of the time, when you're attractive, you are of value. And so if you don't have attractive friends, or if you have friends from the hood, majority of the time they always hate you unless they genuinely are your friend. But majority of the time that does not happen. So some were drawn to her light, her looks, yet conflicted by it at the same time. They admired her, but also struggled with their own feelings around her presence. And throughout her life, my mother continued to face tension rooted in appearance. The way she spoke, the way she walked, the way people reacted to her without her doing anything at all. These experiences shaped her worldview and eventually mine. This is also why my mom went to religion. She went into the Jehovah's Witness organization, which happens to a lot of Black mothers, with the system not making Black community the most prioritized. Majority of the time, Black mothers and biracial mothers are oftentimes undermined when it comes to their needs. Growing up, I witnessed how people treated my mother, and it also influenced the way I navigated friendships and social spaces. And I met many kind of people of all backgrounds, but oftentimes I've always stayed away from dark-skinned women, as they hold the most unresolved insecurities, and it makes them difficult to be around. So, like I said, there was a point in my life where I did hang around dark-skinned women, although I seen what happened to my mother, but what happened to my mother eventually happened to me. Being that I am an attractive woman, every time I go around dark-skinned women, like, there's always something. Like, I swear, like, even if we're good for 6 months in friendship, something happens all the time. So over time, the negative experiences outweigh the positive ones, right? And from that, I no longer hang out with the Black community at all. Like, I don't be around the Black community at all. And this is not because of their skin tone, but because of the patterns of their behavior that just keeps showing every time I'm around the Black community. Like, it is what it is. This is how I feel. This is my truth. And so the Black community has to learn how to look out for one another. My light-skinned grandmother, who was biracial, didn't give my mother the guidance she needed. And when my mother turned to her community, she didn't receive the unity she was searching for. What I'm trying to express is that these patterns didn't disappear with time. They still occur today. And one thing I want to say is, I've talked to the Black community about this, and a lot of times they'll be like, well, it's the broke ones that act like this, And our community needs to heal. But like I said, I no longer deal with Black community anymore. I'm sorry. It is what it is. These issues are intensifying because the wounds that were never addressed have now compounded. and a lot of these people who are sitting with their own unhealed wounds don't want to change. When pain goes unspoken, it grows. When insecurity is ignored, it spreads. And when we refuse to confront the ways we harm one another, the cycle continues unchecked. So this is why these conversations matter. They are not about division. They are about respectful honesty, naming the fractures so healing can finally begin. Until we acknowledge the emotional and spiritual toll that envy, comparison, and unhealed identity wounds have taken on our world, we will continue to repeat the same patterns. And this is why I don't care how people feel no more when I speak about what I speak about in this hour, Cry Me a River, because you're not paying my bills. I'm saying all of this to make one thing clear. Getting angry at someone who has visual advantage simply because they've admitted that they've experienced a lot of dark experiences from being visually advantaged and refuse to deal with the same negative experience today is wrong. It's wrong to dismiss someone's conviction. And people who are visually advantaged have every right to protect their peace, honor their truth, and set boundaries based on what they've lived through. If you know your reality, if you know what you've endured, then you have to stay committed to your own path. Because the ones who refuse to see what's happening, the ones who ignore the patterns and the spiritual weight behind these dynamics will eventually find themselves confused and unprepared for seasons that call for greater awareness. Human nature is selfish. Many people don't want the truth, and some don't even care about what happens to others in the dark. They simply don't want to confront anything that challenges their comfort. And with that being said, this is why discernment, boundaries, and self-awareness are necessary in this hour for the sake of your own well-being.